when you're watching the newsroom right here on ETNow. I'm Ajaya Sharma. The markets are actually weak today all across. Till a couple of days back, you saw at least the broader markets outperform. But today, broader markets along with the benchmarks, all of them are trading at day's low. Global worries, some amount of catching profit taking from 15,700. We went to almost 18,100 on the Nifty. So some amount of profit taking, unwinding of long positions. All of that is actually happening. But we've got a very special chat lined up for you today with someone, a very fresh perspective, a fresh new face on the channel. Sumeet Rohra is joining us today from London. Though he operates his outfit out of Singapore, he looks at emerging markets and India very closely, particularly the PSUs, the Indian PSUs. Sumeet is joining us to chat more on that. Sumeet, thanks very much for your time. And first of all, I'd like to understand from you, why do you see such a compelling case for PSU stocks? In fact, some of the PSU pockets have done phenomenally well beyond the traditional ones. Utility PSUs have run up, defense PSUs have run up. Typically, only PSU banks were favorite, but now other PSUs are also getting excited. But why do you see a very strong case to look at in that direction?
The thing is that, broadly, if you look at, the public sector, I'll just share some broad data points with you, which I think, are quite relevant in today's context. So I'm going by data of, FY21 reported Bloomberg data. Okay, so effectively, if you see the total profit which corporate India made was about 6,95,000 crores. Okay, now in that, if you see public sector as a universe, has basically made a profit after tax of about 1,95,000 to 2 lakh crore. So that effectively tells us that, about 28% of the profit of corporate India comes from public sector. Okay. But if you see in the overall perspective, the valuations, are incredibly low. If you see today, public sector stocks in India as a universe have a market cap of, about 27 lakh crore. Which is broadly 10% of the market cap, of the entire Indian equity market, right? In spite of contributing 28% of, profitability, they are only 10%, So effectively, there is a very high amount of margin of safety in public sector, and you'll be startled to note this fact that, the ROE for the Nifty is at 15%. Okay. The ROE for the PSU stocks is also 15%. So the thing is that, on one side, you've actually got, the PSU stocks which are trading at about 7-8 times earnings. And on the other side, you've got the universe of the Nifty and India, which trades at about 22-25 times earnings. So, and basically, in an environment, like today we have where, interest rates are climbing globally, value stocks kind of, do well, and today, public sector as a universe has got a yield of about 6 to 8%. So, the kind of margin of safety you have, the kind of, moats you have, the kind of, economic efficiency you have in terms of, growth as well over the last 5 years is absolutely stunning, So I think maybe, it's some, point of time where, public sector, stocks will catch up and, they should offer good return to investors. Something which I clearly believe.
Right. So if we bottle down all of that thoughts into stock-specific action, which are the companies which you think are doing good quality work? Which are your favorite stocks in the Indian PSU space?
I will basically, also, tell you this. So if you see the BSE PSU index, right? If you see the chart from 2007 onwards, broadly, the PSU index made a high of about 10,700 and effectively it's done nothing for 14 years. Okay. But what's interesting now and catches my eye is basically if you look at from March 20 onwards. Okay. Now this is actually, startling data, right? From March 20 onwards to today, the PSU index has actually given higher return than the Nifty. So that kind of tells me that, in this leg of the bull market, which is born, which is post March 20, the PSU stocks can, actually lead the market. And that's effectively what is basically happening, so I kind of believe that, this leg of the rally, the PSU should outperform. So coming back to basically what sectors, so I mean, you see the first like PSU banks did very well, right? I mean, SBI, which was languishing all the while from 150, 200 today, broadly went up to 550. You've seen the defense stocks, have done very well. The likes of Hindustan Aeronautic, Bharat Dynamic, they've actually given very, very good returns in the last 6 months. But, one space which I really think, has potential, for a fair amount of upside could be the oil and gas sector. I'll share some data with you. So if you look at the S&P 500 today, the best performing stocks on the S&P 500 are today the oil and gas sector. The S&P index is today negative broadly 5%, but, oil and gas, has done really well. So, coming to India, I think that, the oil and gas space in India clearly has, very good tailwinds going for themselves. Because, if you see, globally, GRMs, have started picking up. And in fact, you have a chart, which shows that GRMs are now at about, $15 to $16. So if you see in the last cycle of GRMs, when, in 2014 to 17, we had a period, when, GRMs went up from 2 to 9, you had stocks like, Hindustan Petroleum, Bharat Petroleum, MRPL,
Right.
Chennai Petroleum, Reliance Industries, they all gave a 3x, 4x return, So, something tells me that this could be an interesting space because, globally, if you see, there is a very big underinvestment in refining, and that is basically, leading to, no capacities coming up. So because of that, there is a fair amount of potential in these, in this space. And, also very interesting to share with you some data which came out, maybe a few days ago. Like India sold about 430,000 electric vehicles. Okay. And that's, on a total sale of about 20 million. And India has totally about 200 million vehicles on road today. Okay. So, so there is a fair amount of headroom of growth in the oil and gas space, which we'll see for the next decade or two. And frankly, with stocks trading at 5 times, 7 times earnings, with a 15% ROE, with an 8% dividend yield, I think the oil and gas space, after the banks and defense is something which, can, kind of pick up. So I think that that's a very interesting space investors can look at,
Right. Sumit, you spoke about the energy PSUs, refining companies in particular. Yes, there has been a sharp expansion in GRMs. Which one would your favorite stock be among the energy PSUs then?
So I think, absolutely correct because, especially after you see, what's translated between Russia and Ukraine and, Germany also have been very vocal and said that, they are going to increase their spending to about 2 to 3%, in defense. So that kind of, has got the, the whole focus back on defense. And anyway, our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has also always spoken about Atmanirbhar Bharat and defense. And, so I think that, the defense sector is, at a very early stage. And, you see that there is going to be a fair amount of earnings growth, right? If you see a company like Hindustan Aeronautic, right? It should do about 120 rupee EPS for FY23. So even today, it doesn't trade expensive, right? It's trading below the P of Nifty, right? So the thing is that, that space is pretty interesting. You've got companies like, Bharat Dynamic as well, which current year should do about a 3,500, 4,000 crore kind of a revenue figure, which is about a 25, 30% growth. So I think, this space is definitely very interesting. Stocks have had a very big run up. They virtually doubled in the last maybe 4-5 months. Are they going to do well in the long term? Definitely, yes. But, you could have some amount of bouts of correction, but they are definitely, strong buys, I would say.
That was, of course, your view on defense PSUs. Before I let you go, I want to understand the argument on value versus growth. There's a lot of discussion happening right now in the market between value versus growth investing, which will work in this kind of a market. What are your thoughts?
I think, broadly, I think, markets will kind of, hold basically 15,500, 16,500 base because earnings momentum is definitely going to be very strong. But, as highlighted that, the pockets of safety in public sector are, very, very attractive. And frankly, in this environment where rates are climbing, I would kind of prefer value. So I really think that, PSUs in India are just about to break out. And frankly, once the PSU index crosses about 10.5, 11,000, I think, you've got a 40-50% upside in PSUs. So I would say broadly, market remains kind of range bound with an upward bias, but PSUs should lead.
All right, Sumit, we'll let you go on that one. But